When you animate your character, the orientation of joints plays a big role in how you manipulate the rig. At this point, you will orient some of the joints by hand and then use a Reorient joint node to point all the other joints down the Z-axis. Sometimes when you evaluate your rig at a later stage, you may need to come back and tweak these things, but we're going to try to set them up here and now. So we're going to again set up the display flag, and you can see the joint orientations here on the rig pose with the axes as they're pointing. So for instance, the COG is pointing down and over, and they're all pointing in different directions. Right now the directions were made primarily because we drew from the side view, but which was not bad, but I think we want to orient them differently to support what we're doing down the line. So we're going to go to the skeleton node here, and at this point we can display joint axes in there and see how we have things set up. Now, using the tweak node, we can, for instance, take this with child compensate on, and if we show handle, we can actually rotate that around and sort of put it exactly where we want to put it. So we could get that to do what we want. The other option is to press P at this point, at which point then what we can do is we can go in and just type 0, 0, 0. Let's put that back in there, 0, and there we go. So that's orienting that up the way that we want in the world. And in actual fact, we want to do the same thing with the pelvis. So we're going to go 0. Let's do a second trip there to get that right. So now those two are pointing up and in the same direction because they're sort of nodes that we use in sort of world space. Meanwhile, the rest of them, we want to actually do that a little more procedurally. So what we're going to do there is we're going to add in there a Reorient joints node. If we were to bypass that, you see how everything's pointed in the negative. We want to change that to go up in the positive. Now, we've currently changed the two nodes we just fixed by hand. So one of the things we could do is go into here and select all of the joints. Control select these two to remove them, and then press enter. So now those two joints keep the hand modified orientations we just had, and everything else is set up accordingly. And then if we do skeleton mirror, that'll continue, and we'll have what we need. So now when we go back to the deformed node, everything by harmonic, everything has to adjust itself to these new orientations, but we basically get what we want there. And if we go, for instance, select the pelvis here, you'll see that it's working nicely in world space like that, and everything else is working along the orientation of the bone like that. So that's doing the trick that we want. Now this probably got a little whacked because of those changes. At any point when you're working with rig pose, if you want, you can just clear it and just start fresh. This rig pose is something that it allows us to test the rig out. At this point, we're using it more just to test things. It will become an important node later when we set up the rig for animating, but it also plays this role of a nice sort of just quick test, explore, make sure everything's doing what you want at this point. And then go like that.